I'd like to welcome everyone to the 90th meeting of the 7th Council of the Municipality of South Dundas. Before I call this meeting to order, as you can see, all council staff present are wearing orange shirts in recognition of the upcoming National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. We will be having a brief ceremony here at 9 o'clock that morning to raise a flag up the flagpole, and anybody who would like to partake along with staff is certainly welcome to do so. So, calling this meeting to order, any confirmation of agenda or any additions, deletions, or amendments at this time from council? Staff? No, okay, thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Councillor Wells?
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to declare conflict of interest on the rezoning amendment of Lot 11, Plan 46 on County Road 2, because I'm the owner.
Okay, so noted. Anything else from any other member of council? Seeing none, we'll have the adoption of minutes from the August 16th, the August 17th, the September 8th, and September 13th meetings of council.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor Mellon, that the minutes of the 95th regular and in-camera meetings, the 96th special and in-camera meetings, the 97th special meeting, and the 98th regular and in-camera meetings of council be adopted as circulated.
Any comments, questions, concerns about the minutes? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. Well, a public meeting tonight. Please open the meeting, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Wells, that the public meeting to consider 3 zoning bylaw amendments be opened at 6:03 p.m.
All heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. With us tonight, we have Peter Young, our planning consultant. So, first one is the zoning bylaw amendment for County Road 2. Peter?
Thank you very much, Mayor Byvelds. So I don't believe, and the clerk can correct me, but I don't believe we have any public that are signed up at this time.
That's correct.
But I will give a quick overview for council and any public listening of the 3 applications for the public meeting. So the first application is a vacant lot on Industrial Drive and County Road 2 in Mooresburg. Council may recall that there's been 3 previous proposals on this matter. And in this case, the rezoning is specifically to CH9, which would permit additional non-residential uses, so wouldn't permit residential uses, which were part of the previous proposals. Originally, it was a 40-unit residential. The second one was a mixed-use commercial residential building. The applicants come back to propose only adding a few more commercial uses to potentially allow more options. This includes a fitness center, medical office, laundromat, storage facility, and motel. There's some similar uses along the corridor as well. And just for council's information, don't have any agency or public comments we've received to date. And I believe the applicant, did Ms. Zander end up signing up, or?
Yes.
Yes. So we do have the applicant here tonight as well. But in general, we do speak to the provincial policy statement, official plan and report, and we do have a bylaw later in the meeting for this file.
Okay. If Ms. Zander is available, she can speak to council now.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. So you have your staff consultant report and my planning report as well. So as Mr. Young said, there have been several applications, as you're well aware, on this property. My client is now seeking to just expand the list of permitted uses in the highway commercial zone to make the property more, I guess, kind of flexible to allow maximum opportunity to fill the building with tenants. So as Mr. Young indicated, there's a few commercial uses that are proposed to be added, but otherwise the proposed building would be in your highway commercial zone with uses that are compatible with the other uses on the corridor. There are no residential uses proposed as in previous proposals. And obviously the property site is subject to site plan control. So we can deal with the site specific details such as landscaping and grading and drainage at the site plan stage. But I think the zoning bylaw amendment you have before you is consistent with your official plan and with provincial policy statement, and hopefully something that you can support this evening. I'm happy to answer questions if you have any. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if any other council member has received it, but I did not receive your report on this specific proposal. It was not part of our package.
There was
For
definitely
staff,
a planning report submitted.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it got circulated.
But this is a little different, and it would have been appropriate that council had an opportunity to look at your report.
Yes, I agree. I'm not sure.
Another question I do have, sorry, does it have within it the building design at all?
There's not, in terms of the architecture of the building, that I don't think that was included. The intent is a 3-story building that would allow a mix of commercial uses. The building has not been designed at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sander. Question for Mr. Young. In talking to the clerk today, there was no notice sent around to the immediate properties, is that correct? Like we had in the past?
For this and the 3 applications that are being considered tonight, I believe it was sent to all the agencies, and there was a notice placed in the newspaper as per the Planning Act, but nothing specific to the properties within 120 meters. So all 3 of these were in the paper and advertised and on the municipal website as well. But in this case, since it was a little bit different compared to the previous ones, and there were a couple similar ones where they're adding additional uses, there wasn't a 120 meter circulation that was done. It was only the standard newspaper circulation in this case.
Okay. It concerns me somewhat, but I will listen to council and see if they have any issues. So there's no public comments to this tonight then?
We didn't receive any public or agency comments, no.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Gardner, any comments, questions, concerns?
I am a little concerned about just the notice. If that's been our practice in the past, I'm kind of surprised we didn't do it this time. People expect the same sometimes, right? I did see the sign up on the property, so I understand that, but with the construction and stuff going on, you're not paying attention, you might not notice it. So that concerns me a little bit, and the design of the building. I think in previous discussions we've had to see kind of what the plan was, but those are my only 2 comments, Mayor.
Okay. Councilor Lewis?
I have to agree with the deputy mayor on that. It would have been nice to see what was sent out, because this is like putting the cart before the horse. Everything seems to be blind to me, which I don't really take a liking to, but and I think that the businesses should have been notified, just not put in the paper or the website. That's my only concerns on that.
Councilor Mellon?
The reason the notices weren't put out individually to the business around, because it falls within the zoning now, a commercial, right? Like, it wasn't like the other ones, like you said, where it was really a big change, where it was going residential. So normally would those notices be sent out individually to the surrounding property owners under normal circumstances? I don't think so, right?
I believe the standard, there's multiple options in the Planning Act, but I believe The standard practice for municipality is to just put it in the newspaper for most applications. In this case, and then when there's ones that might have a wider impact, like a total change of use, it might be sent to the 120 meters as well. In this case, they were all within, and it also applies to the other one in Princeton as well. It was just adding one or two, in this case, I think 4 additional uses, but it was all within that zone, so it wasn't the
Yeah.
more extensive circulation that would typically be done if it was a total change into like a residential from commercial residential, or for example, the recent subdivision in near Iroquois. Those ones we put a bit more circulation out.
Yeah, we weren't inventing the wheel here with this. They've fallen basically under what, other than a few little tweaks to what it was already zoned for.
That's correct, Councillor.
So I have no problem with it, third time's a charm, let's drive on. We've been waiting for this.
Okay. So my question to I guess the applicant's not here. What type of motel? Is it gonna be chain motel or short-term motel? Like what, like, I wanna make sure that it's a true motel and not something that becomes a conversion someday down the road. I'm gonna put it right out there.
If I may respond, there's
Yes.
no immediate plans for any specific tenant at this point. As I said, my client's just trying to make sure there's a range of uses permitted on the property to make it economical for him to put a building there. So certainly any use that goes there has to comply with your zoning bylaw, but the building has not been designed. I certainly respect that you want to see what the building's going to look like. But typically that would be a site plan step. It's fairly expensive to design a building if the township is not going to support the zoning for the uses. So that would typically come at the site plan stage, but there's no tenants planned at this time. There's nobody kind of signed up to occupy the future building. At this point, it's just about increasing the permitted uses beyond your base highway commercial zone to have the kind of maximum flexibility for future tenants.
Okay. So the word I heard 3 times or more was tenants. Usually you call hotel or motel people clients or customers. That's a concern to me. So I want to make sure, ensure that the developers know that this council has been challenged with residential type uses on that property because of the concerns of those who live around it and those who work around it.
I certainly
I
respect
suspect,
that.
I
My
suspect it
clients are-
won't be this council that'll get the change of zoning, but it's that once you got it, we all, I'm just I'm foreshadowing a possibility, I guess.
Yeah. I guess I'm using the term tenant because it's going to be a leased or rented commercial space, so commercial tenants is what I meant, not residential will not be permitted. The residential proposals that this council denied in the past, my client's very clear, we understand that will not be permitted, so I'm talking about commercial tenants, whatever that will be.
Okay, anything further from any member of council? Deputy Mayor Gardner.
Yeah, I hear what Councillor Mellon is saying. I think even though it's not normally what would be done, but because there's been 2 other times, I think it's important to just allow the area to know that things are being done properly and in an official capacity. So I still have concerns about, because this property has been somewhat controversial, because there's been 2 other attempts, I think that it's important, especially if approved, that maybe we go above and beyond just to make sure that it's done properly.
Okay. Councilor Lewis, anything further?
Well, if I understand her properly, this is commercial property. It is not residential property. And if this building, commercial, 3-4 years down the road doesn't work out as a motel, I hope you don't think that it's going to become residential. Because I think once it's marked as a commercial property and this is what's going in there, that's what it should be. And I might not be on council on the day that this happens, but I want to make it very clear. We either do it in writing or whatever. As far as I'm concerned, there is no residential going on that piece of land. That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councilor Mellon? Anything further?
No, I mean, I think we should look at this with a fresh slate. You know, yes, there was the two other zonings that were turned down, other proposals that were turned down. But to me, I'm looking at this as a clean slate. And, you know, I don't think we should really treat it differently than if this was the first time this proposal was being brought in. You know, the other two times, take them out of there. And if you know, down the road, if somebody wanted to change it to residential, they're going to have to go through that whole zoning process again. And, you know, at that point, it will probably be turned down again if they ever wanted to change it to permanent residential. So the way it stands right now, as far as I'm concerned, it's good.
Okay. Anything further, Mr. Young?
Nothing in particular, just that if council does want to have additional circulation, we can always just do a mail out to the property owners and consider it one of the next meetings rather than a second public meeting. But otherwise, when we sent this out, it was similar to the other files that were considered. So it'd be up to council whether you want to provide additional notice or, you know, this was on the website and the newspaper and on the council agenda as well, which would all be sufficient public notice. So we're happy to reach out again, or we have the bylaw on tonight.
Okay.
Later in the agenda.
So when when the bylaw comes on the agenda, we will decide how we will handle it from either dealing with it tonight or deferring it to the next meeting. I understand that we don't want to hang on to it forever, but I want to be fair. But in the end, council will make that decision. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Zander.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next zoning bylaw amendment is for Bell Road. Peter?
Thank you, Mayor Byvalds and Council. So this application is to change a farm lot on Bell Road / Henderson Road from agricultural to institutional and agricultural exception 76. There was a severance to add land to the existing cemetery, so that was approved by the counties. And one of the conditions is that both the land to be added to the cemetery is rezoned to institutional, and because we were making the agricultural lot smaller, a provision to reduce the minimum lot area for farming. So we do not have any comments, I believe, and through the severance, all agencies had another chance to review this as well.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions, concerns from any member of council on this? Okay, and there are no members in no public? Okay. Seeing no comments, and we'll move on to zoning bylaw amendment for 4147 County Road 16, please.
Thank you, Mayor Byvalds and Council. So this is for a property in Princeton. They'd like to reuse some of the existing buildings on the property for mini warehouse and storage. In this case, it's for internal storage. It is in a hamlet or an urban area under the rural settlement area under the county official plan. And that allows for a whole range of a mix of uses as long as they're compatible with some of the surrounding uses. So in this case, there's already a commercial zone where we have later in the meeting a bylaw recommending it goes to a general commercial with an exception would be to permit the mini warehouse and storage. We did not receive any comments from the public or any circulated agencies. I believe primarily it's an internal conversion, but they would be able to look at external buildings as well, maybe some small buildings for storage. It's a fairly small lot, but it's consistent with a lot of the other lots in Princeton.
Okay. Any comments, questions, concerns from any member of council on this? No public comments? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Peter. Right now, motion to close public meeting, please.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, second by Councillor Lewis, that the public meeting to consider 3 zoning bylaw amendments be closed at 6:22 p.m.
All heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. Okay, we have delegations this evening. We have a presentation from Food Cycle Science. I believe we had one earlier, but I know that Deputy Mayor Gardner's been asking for us to do something on this, and I think she needs some support. So with that, we have tonight with us Alex Heyman and Christina Zardo. Welcome.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Starting to come. Is it okay? All right. Is the microphone working okay? Oh, so sorry. Test. Are we on okay? Perfect. So, hello, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having us again today. As you may recall, we did a presentation for you almost a year ago now. It was pretty early in our company's time at working with municipalities. We had come to you really with an idea, which it was back then. We'd initially proposed a project that looked at applying for a grant in partnership with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and working with the Director of Environmental Services at the time to do that. Unfortunately, that project didn't pan out, but we're back here before you today to talk to you about a different program we've come up with that has been successful with 15 other municipalities in Canada, and that we have received federal funding for that has already been pre-approved. So really what's different now from last time is we have a program that's been tried and tested, and we are bringing some funding to the table for it. I'd also like to mention specifically that we've been piloting this with South Glengarry nearby for almost 2 months now, and have been hearing some very positive feedback from them. So with that being said, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Christina to give a very brief recap regarding our municipal programs. And then I believe Shannon has a report with his recommendations, and we'd be happy to take questions either during the presentation or at the end. So with that being said, I'll pass it over to Christina. And if at any time you'd like to come take a look at the machine or equipment, you just wave at me and I can bring it over or something like that.
All right, so thank you. I'm just going to talk about the food waste problem that is avoidable in Canada. Food waste accounts for a really large portion of our waste stream, of course, and it's wet, which is heavy and freezes in the winter, and it emits harmful greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change. So these factors make it so that food waste is something that has a strong municipal impact. One of those is that the cost of landfills is expensive, and they do fill up quickly with the food waste in there. And we have costs for disposal and hauling services as well. From an environmental standpoint, like I mentioned, food waste produces methane gas when it's decomposing anaerobically in a landfill. And this is a greenhouse gas many times more harmful than CO2. And in our community, having food waste in the garbage, of course, causes unpleasant odors to us, but they are interesting for critters like raccoons that like to rummage through our garbage. So removing the food waste from the garbage eliminates these issues, saves the municipality on costs, and saves the residents on nuisance and bag tag costs. So we get asked often, haven't we solved this already? We have green bins as an option, but these are for large cities with the infrastructure and the ability to do so. We have backyard composting as an option, which we think is fantastic. But it's not for everyone. It's seasonal, it can be labor intensive, and we still have some issues with animals and critters. And then of course we can continue to landfill our food waste, but the long-term impacts are costly and harmful to the environment. So what we've done at Food Cycler is something that focuses on making food waste easy to deal with a great user experience. We've built a small kitchen appliance. It's about the size of a bread machine. It's here if you can see it. And what you do is you put your food scraps in. That can include meat, fish, dairy, even some bones. And in a matter of hours, you have a nutrient-rich soil amendment that comes out. You've reduced your food waste by about 90%. It takes about 4 to 8 hours and uses less than 1 kilowatt hour of power during the cycle. So from an environmental standpoint, the Food Cycler compares to backyard composting and anaerobic digestion, but it does represent a 95% reduction of greenhouse gas impact versus sending it to the landfill. From an economic standpoint, our solution does offer a return on investment. The cost per ton is significantly less versus solutions that include hauling, transferring, and disposal. And you don't need to set up costly curbside programs. So one thing that we've learned from working with our municipal partners over the last year is that residents want to be part of the solution. They want their government to bring these things into their community, and they want to contribute to positive impacts on climate change. We also have the regulations that are coming to us here in Ontario with a number of diversion targets that will be coming into effect that we need to achieve. We mentioned earlier that we're working with several municipal partners in Canada. One of those is the City of Nelson in BC. They ran a pilot with 250 households receiving a Food Cycler unit. They used it and gave us an average rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars, and we achieved a significant diversion of food waste over that time. That continues to this day. So Alex will talk to you about the food waste challenge that he mentioned earlier.
So the Food Waste Challenge has provided our company with funding that we've been passing on to our partner municipalities to help offset the cost of pilot programs. It's a 3-stage program with the Government of Canada, and in each stage there's increasing amounts of funding that we've committed to investing 100% of with our municipal partners to expand their waste diversion programs. So in the stage 1 we're in right now, there's a $100,000 prize that we've been using to discount the cost of pilot programs, and that analysis is in the report that Shannon had prepared. And in the future, if we advance to further stages of the challenge, our company is committed to offering a right of first refusal to any partners that sign up with us now to have access to funding in the future should it become available. What we typically recommend for pilot projects, and we've done this with approximately 15 municipalities now, is a 3-month pilot program where residents purchase the Food Cycler at a subsidized price from the municipality. They then track their usage of the Food Cycler over a 12-week period, and those results go back to council so you can get a good sense of where your money was invested and the impact that it had in terms of waste diversion. And at the end of that project, that data could be used to apply for additional grants or to go into the development of further waste management plans. The estimated cost for the pilot size that's been recommended today is approximately $10,000 plus shipping, which would allow 100 residents to access the product at a subsidized rate. That is the end of our presentation. I'd welcome any questions now or after Shannon presents his report. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Alex and Christina. I will turn it over to Council, Deputy Mayor Gardner.
Thanks for the presentation. I'm hoping this becomes the Instapot of composting. I think it would be fabulous. These are innovative solutions that people are looking for. The families that I talk to, when you're talking about backyard composting, many of them do, I do. But there's lots of things that are excluded out of backyard composting if you do it correctly. So this really tackles that. I can say whenever I go into my daughter's gross lunchbox at the end of the day, it would be really nice to just ship all that into something like that instead of just tossing it in the garbage. I also think that I like the program, I like the subsidy program. I think we need to remind ourselves, people assume with wet food that it decomposes in a landfill. And multiple studies have been done. And I found a study back in '91. National Geographic had done a study where the food is actually just air compressed in a landfill. So something like a head of lettuce actually doesn't decompose in a landfill. So in a municipality where we've had so many expensive landfill discussions, I think that it's important to offer up some solutions. And I do see this as the modern day, it's a very nice looking appliance, but I see this as the modern day solution. And you know, there are lots of gardeners in our municipality, and I can see all winter loading that up, having a clean empty garbage can, just dumping it in and then using that for your plants at the end of the year. So there's many applications, and like I said, we really, when we talk about landfills and waste, have to get away from this magic hole in the ground that just takes care of everything and we just walk away. And I think that's a shift, and it may take some time, but I fully support this, and I think it'd be wonderful to see what our families and residents in South Dundas could do with it.
Councillor Lewis?
I thank you for the presentation. No, by what they're saying, I have no questions on it, and I think this is something that I can most likely support myself. Thank you.
Councillor Mellon?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Byveld. Sure looks like an interesting little gadget. You had mentioned the prizes and the pilot program. So if you guys are in stage 2 and let's say you're successful in stage 2, that money will be, any money will be passed on to your partners, like us, if we were to sign on, and anybody else right now in stage 3, the same thing?
That's correct. We've committed that if we do receive further funding, we would reinvest that directly with our municipal partners, giving a right of first refusal to those that have already joined in for these projects in stage 1. There might be further requirements from the Government of Canada in future stages that we don't know about right now, but in the proposal we provided to you in writing, it does have all those terms that,
Okay.
you know, there is that commitment from us to continue the partnership if we are successful.
Now, I have a couple other, I guess, questions, but we can deal with them when we get the Shannon's portion of the report later on in the agenda. I don't think there's anything more, but other than thank you, and it looks very intriguing.
Councillor Wells?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank you guys for your presentation. I think personally it's a great idea. I just have a couple questions. Now, is this unit, like, can they make just the one, or do they come in different sizes, or it's just this?
Right now we have...
Or do you have, like, do you plan on making something bigger, or?
So right now it's just this model here.
Okay.
We are planning on releasing a new model sometime in 2022 that would have a larger capacity bucket. And a lot of the feedback we've gotten is that some households, especially those with 4 or 5 plus people, this just isn't enough capacity for the volumes of food waste that they're generating. Mm-hmm. So while we think this is still a great model to pilot, and for some households, in the future we'd like to have options so that bigger households or households that waste more food, maybe even some small restaurants, cafes, they also can access this technology at a size that suits their needs.
So, and I see the cost for us would be, say if we didn't sell one of them, would be $27,000. In these pilot programs, like, say by chance if no one wants one, like, would you guys take them back, or are we stuck with $27,000 worth of stuff?
So we do have a buyback clause in place in case the units are not sold, and based on our experience, we have full confidence they will be sold. But if something strange happens
No,
and for some reason they don't,
I'm in
we
business,
do buy
so
them
I always
back.
like asking about the bottom line stuff.
And,
No, like, I think it's a great idea, and we have till, I think, December 31st to, for all the cost breaks and stuff like that.
That's correct. The first phase of the funding does end at the end of this year. So to access that discount through Impact Canada, we would need a confirmation of your participation
And
by
like a
the end of the
PO
year.
for you and everything like that. Because I would like to just put it out there to see what the public thinks, because we got 3 months to look at it. But personally, myself, I would take one myself. Like, it was, I think it's a great thing, and diversion from our landfills, it's great. So I'm all for it.
Thank you.
Okay. So full disclosure, I'm one of the backyard composters in the municipality. I do have a place to put it. And yes, I do it in the middle of the winter. There's a track that I actually go back there too. So would I need one? Probably not. But I do see a use for them for those who don't have the space or do not want to do that kind of work. I do also have the availability of certain type of rodent control animals at the farm that will eat up the other scraps that I don't want to compost. So, but I know that we have heard from others that want to go down this road, and I know that South Glen has done it and has been successful in it. So I'm willing to certainly give this a trial and see how it goes. It's an excellent idea, I will say it that, for those who really don't have the place to compost or want to go this route instead of having the composter in their backyard. So there's nothing else on the presentation specifically itself. We will have the Shannon has a report concerning the costing, and then we can make that decision on that, and then you'll be here for that in case there's any other further questions. Okay.
Okay.
With that, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Christina, too. So we'll move on to action requests. First one is the hired equipment and services for drainage.
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner. The council accept report ES 2021-18 to approve the quotation submissions for hired equipment and services, municipal drain maintenance ES 21-12 for the 2021-2022 construction seasons as attached.
Okay, Justin?
Thank you and good evening, Mayor and Council. In front of you, you have a report regarding the hired equipment and services for municipal drain maintenance. If accepted, this would lock in the rates as shown in the attached Schedule A for the remainder of the 2022 construction season and this year. This tender was originally posted to Biz and Tenders on August 25th and included 3 addendums, which extended the closing date to September 22nd, which was last Wednesday. The addendums issued also address some insurance requirements that was discussed in the last council meeting. As part of addendum number 3, the bidders were no longer required to show proof of the insurance requirements to submit a bid, but if they are selected to do municipal drain maintenance, they will have 10 business days to submit the required documents to municipal staff. In total, there were 4 contractors that were able to submit their bids prior to closing. All 4 contractors have different items of equipment that may be utilized for municipal drain maintenance in accordance with our procurement policy 3-28, which allows staff to choose a contractor from the list, from the maintenance list that the drainage superintendent believes will be under $20,000. Should any members of council have any questions, I would be happy to answer them at this time.
Okay, thank you, Justin, for now. Councilor Wells?
No, I see the numbers. They look good. I have no questions at all for this.
Councilor Mellon?
Yeah, obviously, I think in my conversation with Justin about this, and he's well aware of this, I think we have to be very careful when we're handing out drain work on the size of the machine that will be used on certain drains, because On the bigger drains, the smaller machines won't be able to perform at a economical rate. But I think he's aware of that, and I think we're on top of that. We need to have a bigger machine depending on the size of the drain and whatnot, and and the oversight on this per hourly basis, hourly rate will be very important too, to make sure that we're getting bang for our buck. I'm glad to see that we had some local contractors bid on it. I guess if you could answer me anything, Justin, is on the supplied material pricing. I was a little confused on how that is priced out. The one contractor's at $350, I guess, for a load, and the other ones are at a ton. I'm just a little confused on how that pricing is in there. Riprap at $50 per ton compared to, I guess, a load. Are the other ones charging us for the trucking on top of the first one? It's per load at the 21 ton, the dollar amount, and then the other ones are a dollar amount per ton plus trucking, I'm assuming?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, there is some discrepancies in that pricing. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to open the bids to see that prior to closing. So if you're looking at your list there, Lloyd McMillan Equipment and David Brown have put a price delivered to site per meter or per ton, depending on what we're ordering. And TDM is the only one that has included their price per truckload, so 21 ton or 28 tons worth of material. Typically, we're not gonna, we shouldn't need a whole 28 ton trailer worth of riprap, depending on the grain, obviously, but if you kind of break that down, I think it is comparable to the other guys. So I will reach out to TDM to clarify how they've broken that down, because everybody else is a per ton unit measurement.
Yeah, thank you. I think that needs to be clarified up a little bit on that. Any drains going forward, there may be riprap, and there may be more than, depending on the size of the drain, you may need more than one truckload, depending on corners and whatnot. I can live with this, Mayor Bivels. It wasn't the way I really wanted to go with it, but I'm glad we got some local bidding, and I think the bidding is competitive. I just we need to have oversight on this. When the drains come forward to go work, will this come back to us to approval, or will Justin just have assign per as we go, per drain, this contract, you do this job, or it'll come back to us? Before, the jobs always came back and we would approve, the contract under a tendering process.
So my suggestion to council and staff on this is, normally this is the list, and they have up to $20,000 per drain to spend. I think since this is something that's, in my opinion, extremely important to council and the municipality, that we get key information reports on who does what and how the jobs go, and progress reports. And to be honest, once we approve this, just asking Justin, we do have a list of drains ready to start at this price. Yes, no?
Yes, so the majority of our drains that we hope to do this year are under 20, so we will be utilizing this list this year. And further to your question, as per our procurement policy, no drainage maintenance, item number 5 on that policy says, no drainage maintenance or construction work will be completed without a formal petition or request approved by council through bylaw. So say I do have some drain that I assume is going to be 15K. What we would do is put a list together. I would contact the contractor, and I don't want to continue anything without signed agreements with the contractor and signed agreements through council.
Okay, fair enough. But
We'll expedite the process for sure.
you need, yeah, so then if you're going to do that, so at our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks and a day, we would expect that list. We're way behind, and we're going to try to play some catch up, and to do that, considering it'll be October before our next run, some expedition of all that work would be appreciated. Okay, does that make sense, Council Mellon?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want council to bog the thing down. We know we got to get stuff done. If it all has to come back to us to rubber stamp something that we're going to rubber stamp anyway, I would have a challenge with that. I think part of this whole idea is that between Justin, the drainage superintendent, we have a list of drains. As long as they don't cost any more than that, we have 4 contractors that can do the work. Let's get stuff done.
Yeah, and I
We
agree.
have to get stuff done, and I understand there's costs involved, but it's going to be their best guess anyway,
yeah.
because it's an hourly rate, right?
Yeah, and I agree, because I don't think I'd want to set it like if for whatever reason we miss the next council meeting, then you're into the end of October.
That's right.
And that's no good at all. So I agree, we need the information to be brought back to us in a report as to who got what drain, whatever. But, you know, anything under 20, if we're going to give him the go-ahead to do it, he might as well get on to it, and then we'll have to sign off on the contract. I guess, sign off on a contract afterwards, once it's approved by council. That procurement policy and the way we're doing this is a little bit, they're going to butt heads, because it's saying, as Justin just read, that we have to sign off on that to have a contract in place before the contractor go ahead and do it, where we're saying, go ahead, Justin, sign the contractor up and you can get started. Just bring us a report back afterwards. So if I'm getting this right, so we're sort of, you know, we've got to change something, I think.
Okay, I know we have to follow the Drainage Act. Other municipalities do this all the time, i.e. North Dundas, South Stormont, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So, Shannon?
So it's similar to other projects we've had before, where we start the work and then the agreement comes in after the fact. So we won't let the agreement hold up the work getting done. So
Okay.
we can bring that back, but we can have all the logistics set up and ready to go, insurance and everything, so that it's not holding anything up when we come back to council in October.
Okay, because as long as it's in a
Yep.
timely manner, because we don't want to let something go out for 3 months and then we do an agreement.
Absolutely.
And the work isn't up to our stuff, and the contractor saying, pay me, and we say, well, we haven't got a contract with you. So just to avoid any future butting heads, but let's get on and do some digging.
Okay, Council Lewis?
Now, the only question I had, Council Mellon already asked him, one of my concerns was the size of the job, the size of the machine. We don't want to be shelling out, $75, $80 an hour to a machine that shouldn't be on that drain. So if Justin and Councilor Mellon has talked about it, I'm happy, and as you said, Mayor, we're behind, so let's get things done.
Mayor?
Yeah, this whole process has been frustrating enough. I really don't want to be the reason why it's held up any longer, so I'm good to move forward.
That's good you said that. I send you to the next DFA meeting, and you can explain why we're holding back the drains, right?
Yeah. No, I
We
just
we
said
heard
I
it
don't
on
wanna-
Saturday. So we heard it on Saturday from the president of the Dundas
Yeah.
Federation of Agriculture that things are not getting done. So, and he had 4 of us cornered, so we weren't going anywhere. So, Justin, I think, I agree with what Council Mellon and the rest have discussed. We don't want to hold them up. We have to do it right. I trust you to figure it out along with our drainage superintendent and anybody else who can give you the guidance that you need. As I mentioned in my email to you today, one of my concerns is matching equipment operator and the job itself. Sometimes you may want to pay a little bit more for the right operator, or sometimes you'll see that, the cheapest machine isn't really the right machine in the end. And to be honest, you're going to learn from experience this fall on how things go. We'll do the best we can to get what we need done. But sometimes it just, that knowledge you'll gain over using various operators and various pieces of equipment will be worth it for going down the road. So you've heard council's concerns of trying to get things done within the Drainage Act, making sure we do it right without holding up progress on the job. So we'll trust that you and staff can do that. If there's any issues, come back in 15 days with those issues and we can get them solved as quick as we can. But certainly, please keep us up to date on how things go and if there's any issues that arise that we as council need to deal with, certainly bring them back. Anything further from any members of council on this? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Okay, next one is TS 2021-08 half-ton truck tender.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Wells, that council accept report TS 2021-08 to rescind resolution number 18-22-994 for the purchase of 2 half-ton trucks from LaPlante Chevrolet Buick Limited, and that council authorize staff to proceed with retendering for 2 half-ton trucks in 2021.
Jeff, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So in front of you is a report concerning the half-ton tender, which was TS 21-04. During budget time, Council approved the purchase of 2 half-ton trucks to replace units which were identified through our fleet replacement plan. Presently, Unit 71, which is a half-ton truck being used in the plaza, and Truck 73, which is a half-ton truck being used by the Recreation Department. Both trucks have now been grounded due to electrical and safety issues as of the last report to Council on May 25th. I received a phone call from LaPlante Chevrolet stating that due to the pandemic and shortages of the microchips, that there is an issue with receiving the 2 vehicles. Actually, they did not even get into the queue to be built, which I'm hearing more often now. So at this point, the biggest concern was the engine size. That Chevrolet no longer is building a 4.3 liter 6-cylinder engine, which originally is what LaPlante Chevrolet tendered in their submission. So I'd be willing to answer any questions at this time that council may have.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Gardner, start please.
I don't think the issues with the pandemic are going to go away. So in this, I think if you retender it, it's going to come back at a lot more money for the trucks. So you said that the trucks, because of electrical issues, they've been grounded. So how has the staff been functioning minus those 2 trucks? I know there's going to be, I know probably not perfect, but have they been able to navigate? I'm assuming work's still getting done, so how are they navigating without the 2 vehicles, Jeff?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we did have to rent 3 vehicles. Bylaw and Building Department did have 2 rentals, and the Water Division had a rental vehicle so that we could offset the shortage that we did have. We had to be more creative in doing work. But without those rental vehicles, we would not have had enough fleet to get through. Now we're into the fall winter season, and the Recreation Department is now back into the arenas. So that is now helping. Plus, we are now receiving our SUVs, which we also put out as a tender. We're picking up our first one actually tomorrow as part of the 2 purchase for building and for the planning department.
Okay. I'd hate to get into that cycle of purchasing a truck at the peak of demand when that most people feel is going to be a temporary problem. So I'm not sure what the comparables are in price if you have to rent a vehicle versus, like, Jeff, I guess you probably don't have a sense, but is that number, the original budgeted amount of $41,000, do you think that's going to come back as quite inflated when the tender is put out?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, no, I do not. It will change, Deputy Mayor, only for the fact that because they no longer make a 6-cylinder 4.3 liter, we're going to now be up to the 5.3 V8, a little bit bigger. That will be, I believe, the only difference in costs. The market's the market, and we have no control over that. but I was speaking today with LaPlanche Chevrolet, and they are hopeful that if retendering did happen, that we could get right into the queue for a build for very early January, February, getting receivership of the vehicles.
Okay, well, I'm okay with putting the line out, but I don't want, if the price comes back huge because there's not whatever, then I guess that would be another discussion at a different time. So I'm okay with the fishing expedition, I guess.
Councilor Lewis.
Does LaPlante have any other trucks on their lot?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. Drive around and look at all the different dealerships. There's no vehicles out there. Unfortunately, I wish I could say that, yes, they had a lot full. They don't. And when you go on to look at other dealerships, they're just not out there, unfortunately.
Well, I'm thinking the same way as Deputy Mayor Gardner. You know, I don't know why we would get a tender on a 6-cylinder to start with, and I don't really think there would be that much of a difference between a 6-cylinder and an 8. Myself personally, it all depends on what you get inside the cab, not what's under the hood. But I can live with the retender as long as that tender doesn't come in out of sight. You know, if you can't get it, you can't get it. So yeah, I have no problem with retendering it.
Councilor Mellon.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Byvells. Jeff, when was this tender put out to the different dealerships? When was that issued?
It was issued, let me get my notes here. We had it out for closing May 11th.
May 11th.
So, yeah,
That's when it closed.
that's when it closed, and I brought the report back to council for May 25th.
I don't like this. It really bothers me. Either this company, and I got a sneaky feeling that, you know, if why would they come in and say now, oh, well, we don't make that engine or we don't make that body type model of truck, when it was clear in the tender that that's what we wanted. They come back with a price. You know, they're awarded the tender. Now they're saying, oh, we can't get that engine size, we can't get that model. Something's not right here. That bothers me. And, you know, we have maybe no legal recourse when we award the tender to them, and, you know, they had to deliver the truck that was in the tender. They were awarded the 2 trucks. Personally, I would, I think we have no choice. Got to go out and retender. But personally, I would disqualify LaPlante from tendering on Jaws for a year, because just the way they've handled this. That's my personal opinion. I don't like it when, you know, I'm old school, I guess, and you say we're going to deliver something, you deliver it. You know, if that truck come into our yard and they brought it in just for us, and we said, oh, by the way, we don't want it now, take it back, we would probably get slapped with God knows what. So, retender the thing and see when we come out. I would recommend are you looking at 2021 or 2022s now?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, if we retender, they will come in as a 2022 model. But just to answer your question, Councillor Mellon, when we award the contract, LaPlanche Chevrolet has been very diligent in dealing with ordering these trucks. At the end of the day, it's GM Canada. It's not LaPlanche Chevrolet who runs the race here. And they have been following up, and I have been on the phone with them steady from the time that we issued this tender to their most recent phone call. And they have been trying and trying and trying. It's just they were getting nowhere through GM Canada. And that's just the unfortunate situation. So it's not the fact that they were being disrespectful to our contract. They did put an honest effort in to get these trucks. It's just that they were not being built. And then when it was time to build them, they stopped production on the six-cylinder motor, just so that they can focus on more set trucks.
That dog still don't hunt. If you're making a tender and you're getting a price from GM, you have, as far as I'm concerned, you have it, okay, that's the truck we want, we need it by such and such a date. And if GM backs out on you, there's something, I just don't like the whole way it was handled by that. But we'll drive on from this, re-tender the thing. I would suggest we look at, we re-tender. If there's any 2021s out there, besides 2022s, have it both ways. Look at 2021 and 2022s. I think the price is going to be skyrocketing. There's just no trucks out there. There's no computer chips out there. So they might have found out they could sell that truck cheaper. I'll shut up now.
Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mayor. With Councillor Mellon there, like, the way the truck situation is, like, Jeff is totally right. It's not the dealers. It's the companies. GM, Ford, Dodge, GMC, just pick one, because they're all the same. And trust me, last 3 weeks I've been halfway across Canada, and you look at any lot, there's nothing there. As far as, I agree, go out to re-tender. It's basically out of our hands. We need trucks. If it comes in more than 41,000, well, it is what it is. We got to buy trucks. And we're not going to dictate to them what we want. Say, okay, you got to give us this and that. And there won't be, trust me, there won't be any 21 trucks out there. There's none now, because they're not even building them. Because I'm going through it with my own personal vehicle. So I would agree with Jeff. We just go out and re-tender and try to get 2 trucks. Then worry about the price later, because you're saying getting the truck maybe by January. You might not see that either. So we're gonna sit there. We're gonna rent vehicles and that. We just got to get a tender out there, and hopefully this time around they will give us their trucks. So it's definitely out of our hands, and it's like, I agree with Jeff about LaPlante. Like, they're like any other dealer. They're trying to get vehicles and they can't get vehicles, so it's not the dealer's fault. But at the end of the day, Councilor Mellon, it sucks. Like, we can't, whether it's trucks or anything else you try to buy, you just can't get it. So I say we go and re-tender and hope for the best.
Okay. Well, I'll echo a lot of what basically Councillor Mellon has said. I'm not happy either. I kind of somewhat compare it to having to deliver corn at $225 a ton and everybody else is getting $360 because you made that decision. Contract's a contract. I don't know why we people can get out of our tenders. That just, to me, blows me away. And I agree with Councilor Mellon, and I know the counties do have a penalty clause in their procurement policy that if somebody backs out of a tender, they are not allowed to tender for anything for the next 2 years or a set period of time. So that's something we may have to look at. We don't have it now, so penalty clause is not there. This was back in May. Yes, there's been challenges, but just for them to just totally back out, I have a challenge with that. Having said all that, and knowing that the industry is extremely backlogged, and we need trucks, is there any appetite to look at doing an RFP, request for proposal, on used trucks? Jeff, what's your thought of going and look for having companies offer us a used truck, low mileage, whatever we need? Don't be fussy. Doesn't matter what color. We can put white on if we have to.
So through you, we did go on today, my fleet mechanic and myself, and we found one 3 years old, and it's still up in the $43,000 mark. The used market is just as expensive as the new market.
Okay.
And my concern is, Mr. Mayor, right now, that if we bring used in, we're trying to control the fleet spending, that I don't think that would be the wise decision right at this time.
Okay, fair enough. Then you sent me the tender document, and I have some concerns with that. So I think we have some time here, and I don't think 3 weeks or 14 days are going to make any difference. Can you, Brett, have the tender document sent to council for our perusal or for our next meeting, please? And then we can make sure we agree with all the specs, because the specs are pretty tight, and then if you have a tight spec'd truck, you'll never get what you need. Well, you won't get you'll get exactly what you need, but it's something like another municipality that I work with too do for their trucks, and you end up paying more in the end because there's only one supplier that can do it. You spec'd out a 4.3 engine. Well, Ford doesn't sell a 4.3 and Dodge doesn't sell a 4.3. They want to sell the V8s unless you go into a turbocharge, but you said you didn't want a turbocharge. So fair enough. If you get very specific in what you need, you narrow down your choices, and then the choices are what they are. So that is a concern to myself.
So just so I understand, Mr. Mayor, you just want me to send the document to council to review, or is there something that's coming back from me for next council meeting?
Well, I can send it to council and they can say what they want. How about, no, we can't really add it tomorrow, but I think your methods cost us money, and I want to make sure that council's in agreement with that kind of method. And when you strictly specify tires, you specifically specify type of mirrors, type of engines, you limit your range. And limiting range in this day and age, when we just need a truck that's got 4 wheels and engine, and 4-wheel drive or no 4-wheel drive, and get you from point A to point B, it doesn't have to be fancy. Those 2 Ford trucks that we have were the best deal we'll ever get. We'll never ever get them again. But they're nothing fancy, and they do the job. So that's the concern I have. Before we retender, I think there might be some concerns from council. If not, then let's fly with it. But any comments from council on that? Council Wells?
I'm just sitting here listening. I think I agree with Jeff not going and getting used trucks, because they are just as expensive as buying a new one right now, because there's nothing out there. So I'm still in agreement. We retender and go from there. And like you said, I agree with you, Mayor, about, I don't know, I've never seen the tender agreement, but just get a plain work truck, if whatever, and just move on and have our vehicles. So keep our fleet going the way it was supposed to. Replace the vehicles as they're needed, and there's a program there, and we keep throwing it off, and so just get her done and get what we need to get the job done. So
Okay. Any other further comments from council? Okay, so you do have a motion on the table. We'll vote on it as is, and then if Jeff wants to send his tender package, I'll leave it up to him. All heard the motion. Those in favor? Are we retendering? No, yeah, we were retendering. Are we in? So as the motion as presented is retendering as is. Motion carries. Thank you, Jeff. Next one is ES 2021-17, Fling Municipal Drain Engineer appointment.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor Mellon, that council accept report ES 2021-17 to approve Monica Shade, Vice President of Engineering and Sales of Shade Group Incorporated, to be appointed as the engineer to prepare a new report for the Fling Municipal Drain.
Justin?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for having me again, council. In front of you, there's a report regarding the appointment of Monica Shade of Shade Group Inc. to prepare a new report for the Fling Municipal Drain. Under Section 8 of the Drainage Act, an engineer must be appointed by bylaw or resolution to make an examination of an area requiring drainage and prepare a report. The original report prepared by McNeely Engineering Limited in 1987 has been deemed to be unfair to landowners within the watershed, as there are some owners who are not included in the assessment schedule, but are shown within the watershed boundary. There have also been multiple land use changes since the original report was submitted that have not been accounted for. Monica Shade was able to provide a rough estimate between $20,000 and $30,000 to prepare and submit a new report for the Fling Municipal Drain. This cost includes everything necessary to bring the report up to submission. Anything further than that will be in excess of that estimate. Total additional costs will depend on pushback from landowners. Staff will attempt to keep an open line of communication with all landowners to keep them informed in the hopes of keeping these additional costs down. Timeline for the report is approximately 1 year, but this is fully dependent on the Court of Revision and appeals from landowners. Should any members of council have any questions, I would be happy to answer them at this time.
Okay, thank you, Justin. And just to add to Justin's report, Monica Shade used to be part of Macintosh Perry. Do not hold that against her. She did come to council earlier on and explained some of the challenges we were having with drainage. She is not part of the problem, but I do believe she is part of the solution. With that, I'll move it over to Councilor Wells to start, please. Any comments, questions, concerns?
No, we had I don't know when it was, a good discussion about Monica and that back earlier, and it seems like they're a good reputable company, so I have no issues with going ahead with this. Thank you.
Councilor Mellon?
No, I mean, this is what, to get this drain moving forward, I mean, we need to bring in an engineer. We have to look at this and have that report coming from them, and it's going to be billed back to the landowners. That's the cost of farming, cost of living. It's just, it'll be, cost recovery on the drain, and that's just the way it is. So I have no problem with it. Move forward.
Councilor Lewis?
No, I have no problem with this whatsoever. This fling drain it's starting to give me a headache. It's been at this table just too many times for my liking. So, and I remember the night that this lady was here, and let's, as Councillor Mellon would say, let's drive on.
Deputy Mayor Gardner?
Yeah, I fully support this.
Okay, and I do support it. I will caution council and Justin that this is just the start. It's a full public process that sometimes can get messy. It's not like the old days where everybody got together and the drain got done, and that's fair enough. People have the right to challenge what it's going to cost them, and as I said, I know that Monica has done good work with Mac Perry. She's not longer with them and now working with another firm, but in having some discussion with her recently, I have full confidence that she can do the job and do it right. If there's nothing more from council, we've all heard the motion. Those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. Thank you, Justin. Next one is CS 2021-06, staff appointments.
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that council accept report CS 2021-06 to approve the appointments of Tia Fraser Dupuis and Tara Fairburn as deputy clerks for signing authority.
Go ahead, Brenda.
So a commissioner of oaths is a person authorized by the province of Ontario to take oaths for declarations when you sign an affidavit or a statutory declaration. By virtue of office, clerks and treasurers are able to do that job. But as we find with the setup of our office, the girls downstairs can't help with customer service because they aren't able to sign anything right now. Because I was here for 30 years, we didn't have a problem. The girls were able to carry on their commissioner of both appointments. But when I left, we had to apply to the province for them to become commissioners again, and it's taking 4 months for that to happen. So now we've tried, so now we have to go back and ask again. So the province have said to us, why don't you appoint them as deputy clerks for signing authority only because other municipalities are doing the same thing, because it's taken way too long for the appointments to be set up.
Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Gardner.
I think
Questions,
this
sir?
is, this is great. This is customer service at its finest. Thanks Brenda for bringing this forward. I've had customer service reps that have worked and so this is great. Yeah.
Councilor Lewis?
Well, you know how this council feels on customer service. We're very strong on it, and I don't have an issue with either one of these ladies. I think that they would do a fantastic job.
Councilor Mellon?
No, it's good.
Councilor Wells?
I'm good.
Yeah, no wishes myself. All heard the motion then? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. Thank you, Brenda. Next one, CAO 2021-044, food cycler.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, second by Councillor Lewis, that council accept report CAO 2021-04 regarding food cycler, household organic waste diversion, and that council approve the recommendation for the development of organic waste diversion initiative through introduction of a pilot program in partnership with Food Cycle Science, utilizing Food Cycle Science's food cycler technology, and that council approve a municipal subsidized purchase of 100 food cycler units and 20 replacement filter packs to be drawn from the remaining service delivery funds and any savings in the environmental services budget for 2021.
Shannon?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is just a follow-up to Alex and Christina's presentation. So what staff are recommending is that we proceed with a pilot program of 100 units. What I'm looking for council tonight is to approve the partnership, and what I would propose that we do is look at a pilot program to begin January 1st or 2nd of 2022. That would allow us to get the units ordered, to get a social media program put together so that we can start introducing this pilot program in 2022. At this time, we do have some remaining funds left in our service delivery of about $3,800. I do anticipate we will have further funds available based on the price that comes in for our mass rec plan, and as well as some additional costs for consulting for landfill. So at this time, looking for direction from council, and if any questions, Christina and Alex are still here that can provide some additional responses.
Okay, so we'll start with Councilor Wells. Comments, questions, concerns?
No, like I said, I think it's a great idea. It's I still would like to. You're saying we're starting in January, just to go back to see if the public, as we go down for the next 3 months, see if they are actually there's interest and going on. Like if you only get 2 people that. If we put it out there saying might be offering this, and what do you think, whatever, and you get 2 people reply to it, and we're going out and spending $27,000. I'm not sure how much you said there's a buyback, Alex. I'm not sure. I'm sure it's not the full amount. So yeah, I'm for it, but I would like to see it go out to the public and just see if we get any call for it, which I think, I believe we will. I'm reading everything else about it, I'm sure, but I just don't really want to go out and spend all the money and have something just sitting down underneath the rink there either, so. Okay, thank you.
So I can follow up, and maybe Kellen can speak to it, but I'm thinking Bang the Table would be a good opportunity to use for this type of conversation with the public to see what the interest is. So if we've got a little bit of time, we can look at putting something out, making sure we've got the buy-in, which I truly think we will have the buy-in.
I do too.
But if that gives council a little bit more comfort, then we can definitely look at doing that.
It does for me, so.
Councilor Mellon?
Yeah, like, I mean, the buyback clause that is mentioned in here, would be a $25 fee per unit. Plus we'd have to ship it back to Ottawa, I guess, on top of that. So that does eliminate some of that risk, you know, of units not being sold of the 100 on the original pilot program. The filters are $22 for two, right? And a filter would last about 4 to 6 months. Filter require replacement in 4 to 6 months, depending on devices. Yeah. So is that? So you'd be looking at is packs of 20. So it would be $25 for per filter, or is it $25 for 20 packs of 20 at $22.90, $22.12?
Plus HST.
So that'd be less than that. Yeah. Somebody do the math.
It's meant to be $25 with HST included, such that it's a nice round
So that's
number.
for a pack of 20.
For one set, which is one replacement, so that residents choose to purchase it cash. It's an easy amount to.
Okay, so you
to
get a
purchase.
pack with 2 in it for $25.
Correct, and it does require 2 to operate, though they come
Okay.
in a set.
You know, so it might cost you $50, 50 to $75 a year on filters. You know. But my other concern is, you know, we do the pilot program, you know, with the reduced rate. Now, the question when I had asked about the, you know, stage 2 and the funding in stage 3, I think it'd be nice to have a dollar figure that if we're successful after the 100 and we go on selling them and we're not successful with the funding, you know, are we going to still, because the price obviously is going to go up because there won't be the grant money involved in it. So that might, you know, turn some heads. If you guys aren't successful getting your money, maybe that you can get out there and pound on some doors, make sure you get the money. But that could be a drawback there if, you know, if they're not successful with phase 2 and phase 3 and their funding opportunities. I think it's worthwhile to go out with 100 and go from there, and you know, and see how it goes. It's a $25 per unit risk for restocking fee, I guess, if you will, for any that we don't sell. If they don't sell, but if we do sell them, you know, it's good. So. I'm thinking we should go ahead with this. I mean, obviously, it diverts a lot of waste from our landfill, and you know, I think there'll be a lot of interest, a lot of uptake in it. But it'll be after the pilot program's over with, and what we're going to have to charge for cost recovery on it, or you know, there'll be some questions to be answered there, and the filters, like, you know. It might, some people might balk if they have to spend $50 or $75 a year on replacement filters. You know, that's a cost, I think, that has to be factored in here, on top of what the residents are going to have to pay for the unit. Plus, you know, we're subsidizing it, the government, you know, but to get it going. But that's going to have to be. But let's. I'm thinking it's worth a try. I really do. I think it's a good idea. Just some concerns.
Councilor Lewis.
I think he had his hand up for.
Oh,
I
I
can
didn't see it
maybe
because all I
answer
see
some
is
of
Councilor Lewis.
your questions
Or Councilor
regarding the buyback. Given your proximity to our office, we can definitely discuss making those buyback terms more favorable, because we can easily just drive down and pick up any units that are left over. We generally have that for more remote areas which are harder to access. So if that's a concern for council, we can work with Shannon on those terms. I'd also mention that regarding expansion, the idea of the project is for it to be a pilot, and if successful, there's the Impact Canada funding, there's the FCM that has funding, and our new federal government has also identified food waste as a priority in their environmental plan. So we are optimistic that there would be more funding in the future available to the municipality if the pilot is successful. And we know that, you know, the municipality paying the full cost for every resident is not anywhere near realistic. So I hope that conveys a bit of the spirit
Yep, that's good.
of the funding.
Councilor Lewis.
I think the only question that I have, and I think, it's a good, I think it's the way to go. But the only question I have is, okay, we purchased 100 units. And then we sell them like hotcakes. The next time around, do we have to purchase a bulk unit, or can we buy them as we go?
So I think the best pricing we'd be able to offer is when the municipality did purchase them in bulk. There's a lot of savings from shipping them on pallets to the municipality that helps us offer a much lower price than you would see online. They do retail for $500, and our municipal rate is $300 per unit, which is then further discounted with the grant. So you can buy them in smaller quantities, but there is kind of a minimum where you do start to realize those savings, and that's mostly from optimizations and shipping.
It's just I wouldn't want to see us purchase 100 units and, the first 50 just take right off. And then all of a sudden we got 50 units that's sitting here for 6-7 months. Thank you. That's the only question I had, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Jeff Mayor.
30 years ago, I carted around recycling-sized boxes of worms, doing vermi composting. Yeah, they're nodding their heads, yeah. And one of the things, and those projects had uptakes, but they were, you had to have a certain thought process, being okay to have a carton of worms, and the worms could only eat a certain amount and whatever. People have been looking for a really, really long time on how to deal with kitchen waste that you didn't have to go with the worms or whatever the case may be. So I fully support this. I think that when we talk about in the future tipping fees, how we deal with garbage, getting things away and stuff like that, I think we need an element to it that we get as much out of whatever's collected at the curb, out of the curb, and have folks deal with it at home so it's not transported and stuff. I know my family of 4, no problem. We'd probably use it daily, to be honest with you. And I would sign up for the pilot project, no problem, and provide feedback and stuff like that. But I think you've hit the point where you've got something that people can deal with. It's in the bucket. Take it out of the bucket, you get nice dirt, no worms. So I'm excited. I think we've had 2.5 years of intense garbage conversations, and we do need to add some innovative options for our residents. And I believe that this product is probably one of them. So yeah.
Okay. Just running through the math here, our outlay is about $15,000 if things go even off the rails. If we had to send them all back, less if we don't have to. And 100 units really in a municipality of 10,000 residents, 11,000 almost residents. And let's say there's 4,000 households. I don't see a big issue in getting rid of them. Even at $150, because they're pretty well, you can't even buy a good piece of kitchen equipment for that anymore. I think it's worth the while. We have some money to do it, to have this initial project. I do believe there will be, as I said, an uptake. And the first 100 are going to get the deal. That's the, just like anything else. The next ones may not get as a good a deal. They may have a better deal than just buying it off the rack, but I do believe it's something to certainly go down the road and see how we go. I like the idea of free shipping back, so that's your risk. If you think they're that great, we should get rid of them all. If not, you're coming down and getting them for nothing. I think that's fair. I'd almost say you should ship them here for nothing, but I know they'll be on pallets, and that takes a little bit more effort. But anyway, yeah, I do think it's something that's worthwhile. You know, you equate the cost now, but now it doesn't cost. The residents do not see the cost of what it is costing everyone in the municipality for that to go into our landfill. When we do go and transfer into a limit or a weight limit or something that's going to cause payment out of their pocket, this unit will look cheap then. There's no doubt about it. If you're paying what it would cost at $3 a bag to pick up, then you may want to rescue as many bags as possible at the end. So, yeah, I think it's certainly worth a trial at this rate, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Anything further from any members of council? Seeing none, yes.
Just for clarification, is council okay with looking at a pilot program to begin the beginning of 2022 so we can work out kind of all logistics and how we're going to get people to sign up and stuff prior to that?
We
Does that
don't
work?
expect you to do it wrong, so take a little time to do it right.
Okay,
I think that
perfect.
would be all
All
right.
right.
But you may have 100 people by tomorrow
I know.
morning signing up after
Absolutely. There
tonight.
you go.
So, you know, and if not after tonight, after the Morseburg leader hits the press,
Absolutely.
and then all of a sudden, what are you going to do? So I'm going to suggest start working on it, be
Yep.
prepared, but if there's 100 people ready to go,
Agreed. If we can get it out sooner, November 1st, then we will definitely do that. for
okay,
sure.
work
Yep.
with what you get. That's
Yep,
the way it
okay.
goes. Anything further from any members of council? Seeing none, all heard in the motion. Those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. Thank you for coming. We'll see how it goes. As, you know, there is promise.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're moving into bylaws. First one is 2021-91 County Road 2.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor Wells, that bylaw number 2021-91 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2010-48 be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Okay, you need to change the seconder because Councilor Wells is not part of this.
Oh, sorry, yes. Mellon. Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor Mellon.
Okay, sorry, Councilor Wells. You know. Okay, Peter.
Mayor, Council, as noted before, we are recommending that Council pass this bylaw. I think the two previous proposals had some issues with compatibility that Council felt they should be turned down, but the latest one is similar to existing uses and to some of the other permitted uses already in the highway commercial zone, adding a few of the general commercial zone like a fitness center and medical office. And I don't think the issues that were brought at the previous proposals in terms of compatibility will be an issue for this proposal. So we're recommending council pass this bylaw.
Okay. Yep, Mayor Gardner.
Yeah, to Peter's point, the first two attempts, that was my issue, was the residential. The residential no longer exists, so I am in favor of it at this point.
Councilor Lewis.
Since residential is off the table, yeah, I'll support this.
Okay. Councilor Mellon.
Third time's a charm. Better patter. Let's get at her.
Okay. So I'll be honest, I still have concerns. I would have deferred it, but it doesn't seem council wants to go down that road. Fair enough. I will state for the record that not everybody knows about, we should have at least informed the locals that had concerns with the first two projects. At least know from us that this was on the table. They may not have any issues, fair enough. I don't have a problem with it. My other issue is that we have no idea what the building's going to look like, and we did in the past. Yes, we can have the fight over during the site plan review, but it was presented to us twice before, and now all of a sudden nothing's on the table. We're just going to accept the motel and hope for the best. So we'll see how it goes. I'll just remember today and see how motel sticks to the plan. Okay. Anything further from any members of council on this? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any. Motion carries. Next one is 2021-92 Bell Road.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Mellon, that bylaw number 2021-92 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2010-48 be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Peter?
Nothing further to add on this one, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any comments, questions, concerns from any member of council on this one? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any. Motion carries. Next one, 2021-93, 4147 County Road 16.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that bylaw number 2021-93 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2010-48 be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Anything further on this one, Peter?
Nope, just adding the additional use in this case in the commercial zone. Nothing further to add.
Any comments, questions, concerns from any member of council on this bylaw? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any. Motion carries. Next one, 2021-94, 4S agreement.
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Lewis, that bylaw number 2021-94 being a bylaw to extend an agreement with 4S Consulting Services Incorporated for the ongoing implementation and support of the safety management system be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Chief Morehouse, welcome.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me. I just had
We can.
air kick on here behind me. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is a bylaw to continue our relationship with 4S for our municipal employees and their health and safety training. We joined 4S in 2017, and we've had a great relationship with them. We use their building inspections, we use their incident investigation forms, we use their yearly training. It records all our close calls, and all our health and safety information is stored in there. So we're asking council again to extend this agreement for another 2 years with 4S at the cost of $7,950 per year for the next until August 31st, 2023. And if council has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay, are there any comments, questions, concerns from any member of council on this? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any. Motion carries. Thank you. Next one, 2021-95 Fire Dispatch.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Mellon, that bylaw number 2021-95 being a bylaw to rescind bylaw number 2017-48 and to extend an agreement with the Corporation of the City of Brockville for fire dispatching services. Be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Chief, again.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the report before you is to extend our current dispatch services with the Brockville Fire Dispatch Center. On September 1st, CEO Garrity and myself met with the Chief and Deputy Chief from Brockville to discuss this. During that conversation, the conversation of Next Gen 911 came into play, which is coming in 2024. And there will be major increases at that time. So we have talked to other dispatch centers that are increasing their fees now by 25 to 30%. We feel that under the procurement policy that this better, if we just extend for another 2 years, 2% per year, this is a better way to deliver performance and price to the municipality and save some money over the next 2 years. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, any comments, questions, concerns from any member of council on this? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any. Motion carries. Thank you. (2021-96) OPG Williamsburg Agreement Extension.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor Wells that bylaw number 2021-96 being a bylaw to extend the term of the Ontario Power Generation waterfront license renewal for the use of waterfront parkland be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Go ahead.
This is the parkland at Duncan Park in Mariatown.
Okay. Any comments, questions, concerns from any member of council on this? How much of that park is OPG controlled and how much is
It's just,
Erie hours?
do we have the
Just
map?
asking.
Is there a map there? I think it's just a piece that along the
The shoreline is, yeah.
Yes.
And the beacon, of course, yes. Okay, I'm just asking. Just the people will be asking how much we control and how much we don't. If all heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. (2021-97) OPG Matilda Agreement Extension.
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Mellon, that bylaw number 2021-97 being a bylaw to extend the term of the Ontario Power Generation waterfront license renewal for the use of waterfront parkland be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. Again, this is for the land at Loyalist Park, the waterfront piece.
Okay. Any comments, questions, concerns from council on this? Seeing none, all heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. Thank you, Brenda. Next one, 2021-98 Cocoa Paving Agreement.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that bylaw number 2021-98 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Cocoa Paving Incorporated for the Morseburg Asphalt Pathways Replacement be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Justin?
Good evening again. Thank you, Mayor and Council. At the last council meeting, council awarded the Morseburg Asphalt Pathways Replacement Project to Cocoa Paving Inc. for an amount of $209,751.51. It was discussed at that meeting that staff would work with Cocoa Paving to attempt to find some cost savings if possible. Staff was able to hold discussions with the South Nation Conservation Authority and identify that the silt fence that was proposed to span the entire length of the project is not actually a requirement. Staff and the contractor's responsibilities will include ensuring that there is zero sediment transfer from the work site to the St. Lawrence River. So if it appears that there will be a significant rain event, we will have to react accordingly and possibly install small sections of silt fence or perhaps some straw bale check dams. At the end, if there are no major rain events during the project and no sediment control measures are needed, it will contribute up to $9,280 worth of cost savings. So the contract has been updated to reflect these savings and now reads as an agreement with Cocoa Paving for $200,471.75. If any members of council have any questions, I would be happy to answer them at this time.
Well, Justin, I do thank you that you work with Cocoa to find the savings. It makes sense both ways. You need it, you don't, and I'm glad that the savings have been had. Any comments, questions, concerns from council on this? Councilor Mellon?
Yeah, that brings it in line with budget, don't it? We were about $9,000 short. Hey, Christmas come early. I'm good. I like it.
Well, we need a lot of Christmases after we have our discussion tomorrow, Councilor Mellon, just so you know. It's going to take a lot of these Christmases. No disrespect. Anything further from any member of council? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor, opposed, if any, motion carries. Thank you. Consent agenda, please.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that all items listed under general consent section of the agenda be adopted as presented.
With that, we have petitions from various municipalities concerning the possibility of capital gains tax on primary residences, which I can't really see go, but it is a concern. We had thanks from the Winchester District Memorial Hospital Foundation concerning the South Dundas's contribution to the Manor Fund. Key information report on the fire fleet repairs, key information report on tax sale results, and key information report on the boil water advisory protocol review progress. All heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. Boards, committees, discussion items. First one's county council. I'll bring up. So county council did meet last Monday in chambers in Cornwall. We had actually an interesting delegation from the concerning Dundas County Housing Initiative Committee, who is mainly led by Kathy Ashby of the House of Lazarus in Mountain. Gave county council a very grim look at how tight the housing market is, especially for those who really can't even afford the basic living, let alone accommodations. And council committed to do their best to deal with and situation, find solutions. They had a few bridge design tenders go through. Council also followed through on keeping, as I mentioned in our last meeting, keeping an old snowplow for purchase of an anti-icing tank. Believe it or not, by the time they have that anti-icing tank and all the equipment on there, it's another $50,000. So not cheap. So hopefully everything works out. I do believe it's the right piece of equipment to have in the fleet. Not really happy with how much it cost us to do that. There was a request from county planning for the Ontario government to change either the Planning Act or some regulations to allow upper tier municipalities like STG to do community improvement programs. Currently they have to go through the lower tier, like us in South Dundas. They'd like to change it, and it's going to take some work, but this is step one. We've updated our flag policy. We still don't have a third flagpole, so we'll see where that goes. Few encroachment agreements. County staff asked to go ahead and look at doing a 2022 snowplow purchase tender, which council agreed with, and in fact encouraged them to start looking farther down the road. As we found out today, if you want to plow for next year, you should have it ordered by today. There will be a road tour on October 6th. We had a forestry update, and we also had a presentation concerning the Lancaster Branch Library at SDG Library. Council is at all familiar with it. It is an historic building in Lancaster that is much too small for a library, and the study showed two possibilities for expansion. There was some ask from South Glengarry of counties thinking about putting some money into it. However, there was some pushback on that. We did have expression of interest from two county councilors to be warden for 2022. Current Warden Armstrong did not submit, so Councillor Karma Williams, who is Deputy Mayor of North Glengarry, put her name forth, and Councillor Brian McGillis, Mayor of South Stormont, put his name forward. So there will be an election in October concerning who will be warden for 2022. And with that is what counties discussed at our last meeting. We will be having a committee of the whole Wednesday concerning a number of subjects that will come back for this council to hear about at our next meeting. Any comments, questions, concerns? Thank you. Cemetery Board?
No meetings, Mayor.
Okay. Iroquois District Business Group did not have a meeting, but they did have an extremely well-attended Apple Fest 2 weeks ago. Morsel BIA?
The CAO told me that the letter should be going out sometime this week, and we are setting a meeting up with that committee on October 13th, hopefully at the McIntosh Inn.
Okay. Are you expecting a crowd then? Okay.
We're hoping.
Okay. I think it wouldn't hurt that members of council were invited to that meeting if it goes, so
Yeah.
we at least can hear the concerns of what's going on out there. No disrespect to you two, but sometimes the flavor of meetings is something that we need to hear too. Thank you. South Nation Conservation Authority, Councillor Mellon.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a meeting last Thursday, I believe it was. It wasn't anything too earth-shattering in there. The one thing they received, I think it was $10,000 from Fisheries and Oceries Canada they used towards classifying drains. That was one thing that sort of jumped out at me, and I asked them some follow-up questions. That they try to do between 8 to 10 a year. Out of the over 1,000 drains in South Nation watershed, there's about 18% not rated. I don't know what the number would be for South Dundas drains. That would have been a good question I should have asked. But, and they're working towards getting those drains rated, so it would make drainage work a little bit quicker and easier for us in the fall when we do it. SD&G Woodlot Advisory, they had presentation on that, and it's a grant money from SD&G, I guess, and there's 23 grants approved for a little over 11,000, a little over 1,500 acres of new managed forest. That's a program sponsored through SD&G. The new fee schedule was approved at our last meeting. It's about a 2% increase. I believe I sent it here to staff and to yourself, Mayor Byvel's, the new fee schedule. And it's 2% over last year. There was sort of two new areas in there, and one was minister zoning orders, which they never had a fee schedule for that, and any complicated and time-consuming files that from that might come from that. So other than that, I don't think there's anything too much more I can add. Mayor Byvel's, we're trying to arrange a delegation with South Nation in the near future. The next meeting is October 21st, and that's usually that'll be when the levy is presented to the board of directors, and then the first meeting in November is the first draft of the budget. So any other questions, I'll try to answer them. I don't think I forgot anything.
Okay. Any comments, questions, concerns for Councillor Mellon?
Well, one other thing,
Go ahead.
Mayor Byvel's, I did forget. They didn't do their golf tournament this year, so last year they had an art auction, a silent auction, to raise, they did quite well. I forget what the total number was. They did very well on that, and this year they're going to be doing a woodworking pieces. They're going to have 100 locally donated woodworking pieces to be sold sort of through an auction service. So last year they did very well with the art auction, and this year I'm hoping they're hoping they'll do just as well with the wood carving and woodworking pieces for a fundraiser which they use towards the youth fish camps each year. So other than that, that's it.
Okay, and I will apologize somewhat, Councillor Mellon. I did discuss the South Nation presentation for this meeting with the clerk, but we already had 3 public meetings plus the fruit cycler presentation. I felt the timing wasn't well, and to be fair to them and fair to us, to have a good discussion on what they're doing, and if we had any comments, questions, concerns, could be quite lengthy. And I do have a discussion with the council later on that we'll either do that or we will have it at our next meeting, no matter what, and make sure our meeting works for them too. Would that be fair enough?
Yep.
Okay.
No, it's yeah, just it's an ongoing thing, and we'll get to it in the next.
Oh, we understand you need some, I wouldn't say direction, but at least guidance on what we feel should happen with levy, if there's going to be any changes, and
last year or so has been quite different.
Well, true, and and the government's been a little silent in the last probably 4 months. They do have a new minister, and when new ministers take the chair, they usually, first of all, want to see what's going on, and second of all, would probably want to have their own input into current situations. So all due respect to him, and as I said, I do believe we need to be updated fully on, A, what's going on from the province, and B, what South Nation wants to do with those plans going forward, and perhaps a quick rundown of what others are doing too, because that's not hard to figure out either, but it'd be nice to have an idea, so.
South Nation has been trying to check off the boxes, I guess, if you will, but the one thing that was at the last directors meeting, the lack of communication from the province in the last few months as far as direction on how they want to proceed with some of these things is, so, but they're getting, that's within the last week and a half, they got some communication or dialogue back from the province, so hopefully they'll be able to enlighten us a little bit.
Yeah. As everyone knows, the province has entered their silly season called election year, so things can be rather fluid in those kind of years too. I'm not looking for an excuse. I know that the Premier had take some extended time off, and I do believe they're back to work next month, so hopefully things start moving again. Anything from council? We're good? Okay, thank you, Councillor Mellon. Morsel Waterfront Committee?
We met September 15th, and at this point in time, we're focusing to see if we can get some trees planted by the end of the year.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Thank you. Airco Waterfront Committee will be having a meeting on this Thursday night. It's just been called by the chair, so he just sent me the agenda, and it looks like something that there's some work to do, so I'll report at our next meeting. South Branch Committee, any meetings?
No, and that's something I don't know, we should be meeting in the very near future or early in 2022. Like there's been, I don't know if staff could maybe reach out to see if they can get things rolling again there.
Are there any applications?
That
That's what drives the committee, right?
Yeah.
Applications.
I haven't heard.
Or is there
and this
funding left, or?
I don't think there was, but we can follow up and see.
Okay.
Yeah. That's somewhat of my concern. I don't know, don't know where anything is going with our committee, so it'd be nice to get things moving a little bit, or.
Okay. Is it a committee of council, true committee of council?
Yeah, it is a committee of council.
Okay, then maybe a report, a key information report for the fund at our next meeting would be fair. No disrespect to the committee, but,
Yeah,
at
the
least
funds are
then
there
we
and
as
they-
council know what's going on, then,
The funds will keep collecting. There'll be another check coming in 2022. and-
February, usually around there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it'd be just, I don't know what applications, if they received any or what, so.
okay. And as I say, you don't know where the funding is, so a little update won't hurt. We're not, as I said, no disrespect to the committee, it's just, you're asking questions we can't answer, so. Carmen House?
Haven't heard nothing back from the chair. I think maybe I'm going to give him another phone call, see
Okay.
what's going on.
Yeah, I think, as much as this year's been a write-off, it's time to start thinking
Well, I
of
think
next
it's-
year.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's what I said to him the last time I talked to him on the phone.
Yeah.
We
and
should be making plans for 2022.
Yeah, and there may be others that'd be interested in helping out, so things could change by then. And Dundas County Archives have not had a meeting. Tourist Advisory Committee,
No.
Economic Development.
The only thing I would say is we have meetings coming up, but the deadline for the awards is fast approaching. So if anyone knows of a nomination, or if anyone would like to submit a nomination, I would encourage folks to do that, especially with the tough last couple of years. It's nice to kind of push that community spirit. So
Okay. Doctor Advisory.
just waiting for confirmation from the ministry for a meeting date.
Okay. We all know that may take some time, but that's okay.
Yep.
It sounds like their review of the Conservation Authority Act.
Pretty
Almost. Yeah. Well, the Prime Minister was elected with another minority government, but he certainly has the backing of other parties, and he did promise that he would throw money at healthcare and provide 7,500 doctors, so maybe we get one. I think, politicians are now recorded when they are given promises and doing all their electioneering. I think we as public need to hold them to be accountable, because it's the only way, that's the way politics work, unfortunately. Okay, so property standards appeal, go ahead, Shannon. Just a second. We'll read the motion that the clerk has fashioned up, and then you can add to it.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, second by Councillor Lewis, that council waive the fine of $200 as charged on June 22nd, 2021 for a property standard issued to Kim Archer.
Okay, so the motion basically is a request from the resident. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I do have some pictures. I'll give them to Councillor Lewis.
Councilor
there.
Lewis, turn around.
If you want to pass them on as I'm speaking. So we did do an inspection. Our bylaw did an inspection on September 15th. According to their inspection, there was considerable cleanup since the compliance order was issued back in the beginning of May. Based on the compliance order, it was to be cleaned up by May 25th, 2021. And looking at the bylaw, the property standards bylaw that we currently have in place under 2001-34, there is no specified time period in the bylaw. It just basically indicates that there shall be specified time permitted for the compliance. So if council has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them, or I can provide additional information if needed.
Okay, I'm going to allow time for everyone to see it, and then we'll make some comments, make our determination.
I do have pictures from the original on September 21st, if council would just like to see what the difference is.
Yes, I think that would be
Yep.
fair, because we have no context of where it started.
Yeah.
As well. Councilor Wells?
Email them.
That's okay. It's better to take a few minutes and make sure that council is fully up to speed. And yeah, these aren't really for public perusal because of the nature of the privacy issues. Okay, now that council has seen all the pictures and comments, questions, concerns, Deputy Mayor Carter.
I stand by some of my original comments. I think that in this scenario, working with the landowner versus working against them is always the way to go. There is, the cleanup has taken place, satisfactory in my mind. I'm okay to waive the penalty.
Councilor Lewis.
Now that I've seen the pictures from before and the pictures after, I do believe that this resident has done what was fair. And I think myself personally, the property looks pretty good right now at this time. So I have no problem whatsoever to say, no, she doesn't have to pay $200.
Councilor Mellon.
Yeah, I mean, the property in question, you know, I've seen it, and, you know, be honest with you, you don't pay that much attention a lot of times, but, you know, in the last little while, draw my attention, and it has been cleaned up considerably. Property standards, like, I think we need to review how we deal with this, you know, especially in our time frame, because I think that's where the whole problem is, and I think we need to review that. I'm willing to waive the $200. The lady has made an effort to clean her property up. When you have conflicting neighbors, if you will, and, you know, what one person considers as neat and tidy, maybe not so much for the next one, and, you know, so it's always a judgment call, and it's hard on staff to try and find that balance, and that's where I think we need to look at how we're going to go forward with our property standards. I think we need to, you know, give firm guidelines, and maybe the first time out, like a verbal warning, but with a list of what has to be cleaned up and a firm date of when that has to be done. And if it isn't done by then we go back in with the notice or the official, you know, and give them a firm timeline, you know, say 2 weeks, it's cleaned up, and then, because really this shouldn't be coming to council. I mean, you know, it makes it very hard. I mean, we're trying to pick and choose, and, you know, who said what, and, you know, so I'd like to see us review that policy and give our staff at least the opportunity to, you know, they're trying to do what we're directing them to do, and, you know, and that's fine, and that's what we want them to do. But I think we also need to work with our landowners and our homeowners, and, you know, if it's a case of, you know, just not being able to get around to getting it cleaned up quite as quick, but if they have that set timeline, and to penalize them with another $200 that this person probably maybe doesn't, you know, have readily available. The end goal is to get the property cleaned up, and we've gone, I think that's been what's been accomplished, so I'm willing to waive it.
Councilor Wells.
Thank you, Mary. I'm going to kind of echo the words from Councilor Mellon, and definitely review the time frame and how we go about issuing these things, because the last two that's been brought to our attention, the last one prior to this one I think wasn't done properly at all. There's a lot of properties, if you want to drive around, like even this property prior to the cleanup, it's like didn't really look overly bad for being out in the country. But then again, like I said, it's all in beholder's eye. The neighbor thinks it's a mess, and the other neighbor says, well, maybe it's not. But at the end of the day, we have to, if we're going to go down this road and we're going to start doing this, like there's a lot of people better start cleaning up, because there's a lot more, 100 times worse in our municipality than this Kim Archer girl. But anyways, saying that, I'm all in favor to reverse this fine for sure.
Okay. I agree with Councilor Wells and Councilor Mellon's thoughts. Was the property perfect initially? No. Was it the worst one in South Dundas? not by a long shot. No disrespect to bylaw, they have a job to do, and if someone complains, you're gonna, have to at least address it, and I understand that. It seems that it's all in the eye of the beholder, and as Councilor Mellon said, some people think that what that looks like is okay, and others would say, no, it's a mess, and somebody might say one piece of wood in the lawn is a mess, and we have to be reasonable. The old term, use common sense, and maybe what, as Councilor Mellon addressed, starting verbally and then, come up with a plan with some timelines. I don't disagree. Makes some sense, and it's unfortunate that we're a little short in bylaw this day and age, but when we get back to a full complement, maybe having them come to council and have just a good discussion on what our expectations are. You have to have a fairly firm bylaw. It's how you interpret it and work it with the council of the day, because you can have a council sit here and say, we want everything to look pristine, and that's what the bylaw says, so do it. And then you can also have a council that says, no, it doesn't matter, it's their property, they can do whatever they want. And we as council can make the rules, but we also are judge and jury of those rules. And it was interesting, we just actually had an article in Municipal World concerning that we can, as we're doing tonight, waive fees, because that's our we have the right to make the bylaw, we also have the right to waive and enforce it, and the right to waive fees, and that's been proven in courts. So, but as I said, we have a particular mess, and I've seen emails recently as today that go well beyond what this person even thought of doing from the start, and we need to start acting on those and be very proactive. And we can let them go for a while, but in the end, that direct impact is probably much more so than this one that, as some of us say out in the country, some people have very good country residents, trust me on that too. So, but I'm certainly willing to, I think the resident has done their due diligence and cleaned it up to the best of their ability. It's not perfect, but I'm fine with the way it is, and hopefully they continue to do so. Anything further on this? Yes, go ahead.
Just to add, we did originally back, I believe, late in 2020, did bring a property standard update to council. It did go back, so we're looking at probably bringing back a more comprehensive bylaw to update the 2001, sometime hopefully in later October or so. We can have further discussions on timelines and stuff.
Okay. Nothing further from council? If not, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. Okay. So last week, during our emergency management committee, there was an ask by council staff to hire commissionaires for screening at our, especially at our arena, since it's going to be really busy, and staff felt it would overload them. So I'm going to turn it over to the CEO to see how that all went, and I did want to make sure council was aware that yes, we're using COVID funding to do it, but one of my challenges was I didn't want to set up quote unquote police state that we look like we're trying to being heavy-handed with our citizens. I think the vast majority are certainly responsive and respectful of the new rules that the province of Ontario have enacted. However, we have heard that some are not very happy and are willing to do whatever it takes to fight them. So, go ahead.
I'll let our manager of facilities update council on where we're at.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, or good evening, Mayor and Council. So as Stephen already touched base on, we did retain the commissioners last week, Monday, Tuesday, after the emergency council or committee meeting. Due to their staffing issues, they were unable to start at the arena until Friday evening. So it was kind of nice. It gave the user groups of the arena 2 days to sort of feel it out on Wednesday and Thursday after vaccination passports came out. I was at the door a little bit one night along with some other staff members, and it sort of gave the user groups a chance to discuss it. Based on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I touched base with all the arena operators today, and they were quite happy to, one, have the commissionaires there, just as it allows them to complete their job while they're on site, and two, just knowing that there's somebody at the door all the time, and they are just responsible for making sure the other doors are locked. Knock on wood, we had no major issues this weekend. A few forgot at homes, a few first vax get a little upset, but eventually the commissionaires handled everything protocol-wise at the door correctly. So there was one complaint, I think, went up the commissionaires chain and reached me, but it seems to have sorted itself out. And other than that, the signage and the process seems to be going very well, and I'd be remiss if I did not have a shout out to our volunteers in the skating club and minor hockey, as I think it's been smooth so far, and great appreciation to the hard work that they've been putting in as well, adapting to COVID. If council has any questions about how things have been going based off of this weekend, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it over to council for their opinion. Councillor Wells, start.
No, as long as like everything's going good, we're following all the rules and that, and it's probably a lot better to have the commissioners there. It just makes it a little more formal, and as long as it's working, it's great. So I have no issues.
Councillor Mellon.
Yeah, I mean, I think by using the outside source commissioners, especially for the first little while until people get into the swing of things, because I don't think we want to, put some young staff in the line of fire, because there's going to be the odd a-hole that's going to cause problems, and we're doing what we need to do as directed by the province, and I think it's just better for us to use the commissioners for a while, until people are going to take people a while to get into the habit, and just accept it. I bring my little card with me, and there you go. Because somebody's going to, so after maybe a couple months we won't need it, but maybe after a couple months everybody will be used to wearing a mask, and it won't be such a big deal anymore. So just like wearing a mask, you bring your card. Bring your thing. So yeah, it just worked. I think we need to reevaluate in 2 months or something, or maybe a month, and see, if we need to bring it in-house, I guess, if you will. But we got to have the staff for that too.
That's right.
We'd have to bring somebody in, so, maybe we can look at the dollars and cents of it, Is it easier for us to continue using the commissioner, or some of that, is that fund? Yes, so we can use that indefinitely. I think we need to just drive on with this, yeah. Until, I don't want to use all that money up on that sort of thing, but I guess we could look at hiring somebody using that fund, but I think it's a filling out process for the next month or two. That's it.
Councillor Lewis.
This being one of my fields, I think it was a good idea to hire the commissioners. We should not put our staff, any of our staff, through this, where they're going to stand at a door and take crap from anybody. I know in the arena, those guys are very busy. They have enough responsibility to take care of. So I have no problem with the commissioners at all there. Thank you.
Mayor Gardner.
Yeah, I echo what everyone around the table has said. I think that it's been a long haul. I think people are frustrated. I think having a third party as an intervener is the right thing to do.
Okay. I don't disagree. I just wanted to make sure that council is fully aware of what was going on and were comfortable with it. So, David, thanks for the report, and any changes or issues or updates, not every week, but whenever is necessary, please let us know.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And he fades to black. Okay, so moving on, we have a Main Street funding program presentation by our Economic Development Officer, Rob Hunter. Rob, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate this opportunity to update Council on a funding program that was announced by the federal government back in August, just the day before the election was called. So knowing that they had a little bit of downtime through that election period, I want to bring this forward to Council because the Canadian Urban Institute, who will be receiving the funds from the federal government, is currently in development of the program. I do know that the general nature of the program is for improvements to streetscaping in neighborhood Main Street areas. I'd have an opportunity to kind of have a talk with the Tourism Advisory Committee and also the Economic Development Committee, just for feedback on possible projects that we could look at, knowing that the program's not open yet for applications, but I thought this would be a good time to at least bring this information to Council, so Council knows that this is something that will be coming in the future, so we can have a bit of a discussion. And a couple of the projects that the two committees had highlighted were, one, looking at improvements to the roundabout in Iroquois, possibly taking some of the elements for the one in Norrisburg, specifically the river stone, and replacing the grass that needs to be maintained at the Iroquois roundabout with river stone, and also possible, having the village name of Iroquois, on two signs on two sides of the roundabout, similar to what will happen here in Morrisburg with the village name going on the two sides of the roundabout wall that has just actually been constructed. It looks quite nice. So that was one of the items that they suggested. They also suggested that we could look at some decorative banners on the poles that are in Iroquois that do exist to kind of brighten things up now that we have the gas station open and the Tim Hortons, and certainly seems to be some activity in Iroquois Plaza, and then of course we got the expansion of Ross Video, so some activity there. And they also talked about the possibility of dressing up the intersections in both Princeton and Williamsburg with kind of looking at that piano key style painting to kind of have a defined crosswalk, make that look nice, and also some decorative banners through Princeton and also through Williamsburg, because those are two other areas where we have some commercial activity. Of course, had that one application tonight for some work at Whitaker Environment with some upgrades to that building. So we want to at least bring this forward to Council, say, these are some of the ideas that they had, see if Council might have any ideas. Just that way we can kind of set ourselves up for when the program does open for applications, that we were kind of starting from a starting point already.
Okay, thank you, Rob. If Council doesn't mind, I have a few ideas that I'd like to at least put on the table, and then you can do what you wish with them. I think it's time that we look north and work on Williamsburg and Princeton. The Iroquois roundabout isn't our problem, it's the county problem. Let's make sure it stays a county problem. Counties have money to deal with that headache as they feel fit, and if they don't, then the councillors that are there will just say it every time, and eventually somebody will get some work done. But I do believe that we need to get out of our little enclave down here and start working on streetscaping and banners and different kind of ideas for economic development activity in Williamsburg and Princeton and any other hamlet that has any kind of economic development. And I'm not sure there's anything in Hulbert though, Councillor Mellon, but okay. Okay. Oh, traffic circle at Halbert Snowbird and 16. Okay, we'll work on that one. So anyway, with that, Deputy Mayor Gardner.
I absolutely agree. When the discussion was happening, as one of the voices, has no problem calling counties out on the traffic circle in Iroquois. And I agree. I think it's time that we engage both those communities, see what the business owners think. There's a decorative element to this, but there's also potentially a traffic calming element. We've had it come to the table numerous times about speeding, especially through Williamsburg. Maybe some of the design could, it's going to slow people down, that type of thing. So I'd like to see our economic developer engage with those two communities, get some concrete feedback, what the possibilities are, and I'd like to see this funding being focused in those two communities for sure, if the businesses and residents want it.
Yep. Councilor Lewis.
Glad you brought that up, Mayor, because that makes my long speech into a shorter speech. Because it seems like every time we apply for funding, 85% is either from Morrisburg or Iroquois. The villages, the rural villages are on the north side of the 401 doesn't seem to get too much of anything. And I think if we get funding, that Princeton and Williamsburg would be two fantastic spots to start in. I think we should start doing something for the rural people, or the little village of Williamsburg, instead of going Morrisburg, Iroquois. And I thank you for the time.
Councilor Mellon.
Couldn't agree more, Mayor Byvells, with your comments and my colleagues across the way. I think I think Princeton and the Berg need some sprucing up, and especially the crosswalks, whether it's decorative crosswalks or whatever, some kind of crosswalks, especially in Williamsburg, especially with 31 being, it's so busy. Yeah, they're supposed to slow down, but and in Princeton too. But I think there's the two locations we need to focus on for right now.
Councilor Wells.
Yeah, I'm obviously I have businesses in Williamsburg, but yeah, it'd be nice to see it spruce up a bit back there. It's our main areas are out here in Morrisburg and Iroquois, which is nice to see. A lot of nice stuff getting done out here too. Like I said, back there we can definitely use a little sprucing up. So I would agree with you there on that.
And everybody thinks banners aren't important, but if you drive through any rural village that do put banners up, that you see them. Yeah. Whether you're driving or not, you do see them, and that takes some awareness of not the people that go through it every day, but those who do not. And that's what economic development is all about. And there's things in Williamsburg that are key. There's Princeton's our agricultural hub. There's no doubt about that. And maybe someday we can look down and look at some of the other rural villages and even put banners there just to say that they belong to South Dundas, because let's put it this way, people who live in Dunbar probably wonder if we even know they exist some days. So you have to keep that in mind. Yes, we know about Halbert because Councilor Mellon's here all the time, but we are a large municipality, and we tend to be, we reside at the south end because that's where a lot of economic activity happens, as Councillor Wells has alluded to, and I don't disagree. However, I think it's good that I wouldn't say focus, but at least refocus some of our economic development energy to the north end, and I think this program would work well with that. Any further comments, Rob?
No, thank you, Mayor and Council. I as mentioned, Princeton and Williamsburg were certainly both identified during the discussion, and I think that this would work well and be a good fit with the program, I certainly don't have any, I'll look forward that I can make some contact with some of the businesses in Princeton and Williamsburg. We certainly, when you think of Sherry's and knowing that there's some further upgrades being taken to that property this fall, there definitely commercial activity there, and banners. It's surprising how much some simple, colorful banners can make an impact. So I'll definitely reach out and talk about the banners in the intersection and possibly some other ideas, and maybe bring something back to council once the program gets announced, and we have a little bit clearer vision on what will be eligible and that type of thing. But I appreciate the information on this, council.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Nick, the next agenda item is considers about the committee of the whole dates. I had in consultation with our clerk. I think we know between myself and the CEO that we still have a list of items that we can put on committee of the whole, and we pretty well add to them every time we have a meeting. Like tonight, we added property standards bylaw review. They're much better done at a committee of the whole than a council meeting. Right now, our current council meetings are the second and the fourth Mondays. As much as Deputy Mayor and myself go to county council on the third Monday, I'd be willing to do a 3-hour meeting that evening to consider committee of the whole items if we have a list. I'm not saying we have to have one every time, but I know there are councils out there. I'm pretty sure Edwardsburg Cardinal have a committee of the whole every month. It will, like, I consider a good meeting 3 hours long, and we're going to probably get close to that tonight, and that's good, because we all know whether you're operating in the daytime or you're operating in night, especially at night, 4 hours, anything past 3 gets into that, you're not thinking well hours. And the list, like, we're working through a list tomorrow, and that's a good thing. I think it's about a 3-hour list, to be honest. I don't see us going past that too badly. We'll see how much council discussion we have. If I can contain Councillor Mellon's comments on Taylor Road Bridge to a minimum, we'll be good. All we have to do is promise him the bridge, and he should be all right. But anyway, we haven't talked about short-term rentals. We just put this one on. There's a bunch there, and if there's a list there and council's willing to do an extra meeting a month and make it a more normal event, at least for the next 6 months till we get till May of next year, because I think May next year becomes that silly season for municipalities where people will want to be part of the next council, and that's good. I don't have any issues with elections. And then we get to the end of July, and if there's not enough council here, then we become that lame duck council that all we do is allow, staff can do what we've already said, so we become a rubber stamp council. But I do feel we have a lot to do before we get there, and I'd rather take that time. Meetings in the daytime in October, November for myself, and I know Councillor Mellon are challenging because of our lifestyle. Councillor Wells is busy. We're all busy. No disrespect, you know what I mean, but I mean, we're all busy at something. Would council be willing to entertain doing a third meeting a month and make it that Monday? And yeah, it could be a bit challenging for us, but I just want to get stuff done. I'm to the point that I see the list, and not sure where we're going to get it done. And the end of September now, you only got 3 months left of this year, and the last month is not even worth it. So anyway, thoughts?
Yeah, I would much rather that, like a standing committee of the whole where we get stuff done. Do you feel that one extra meeting a month is enough?
That's as far as I'd push it right now, yes.
Okay, so no, the most aggravating point of this job is when we have a couple of weeks between discussions or even months between discussions. I just want to get it done. So I'm okay with doubling up with counties. I have no issue with that.
Okay. Council Wells, what's your thoughts?
I have no issues. There's a lot of things there that has been put on the back shelf that we definitely, there's a lot, so
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
And to be honest, it'll give opportunity to individual council members if they think of something that they'd like to present to council and have staff do the research. And the committee of the whole is a good discussion time for those kind of items, and knock them around and not saying we cram it full, but if we have a few more meetings and they're scheduled, we know we can get stuff done. I do believe that's the smart thing to do. Council Mellon?
Yeah, I have no problem with putting another meeting in there. You're proposing the third Monday, a night meeting, Mayor Byler?
Yes, a night meeting, yes.
Yeah, I think that would
Start
work.
at 6 and end at 9, that's
Yeah,
my
I think
thinking.
that would work. I can, we'll make it work. Yeah, the third Monday, yeah, I have no problem with that.
Council Lewis?
I do believe whenever we first all sat around this table 3 years ago, we made the statement that we're go-getters. We want to get things done, clean our slate, and I think we're doing a good job at it, but I think we can just pick it up just a bit more. My own personal feelings, because I know this, we still have a big plate full of stuff that I think this council would like to get finished. So I do not have an issue with having one meeting extra a month or 2 meetings extra a month. I have no problem with that whatsoever. As you said, I want to get things accomplished and get them off the plate, and I think this is the council that can and will do it.
Okay. So since council agrees, I'll work with our CEO and staff and we'll come up with that list and certainly have at least one committee of the whole meeting a month. If the list gets too long, then perhaps we'll look at that second one. And to be fair to council, we haven't spent any money on conferences this year, so there should be funding for us to do that. And we're not here to get rich, but I think we have to be fair to ourselves. And there's 3 hours of meetings and 2 hours of prep time. That's 5 hours out of to be fully engaged, and I think we all are. And if there's any question in that, I think that's a fair way of looking at it. CEO, comments?
Definitely something if council wants, I can sit down with senior staff on Wednesday. We have a senior staff meeting, and we can kind of look, start planning our October, November, December as far as what we want to put on the committee of the whole. And then I'll run it through you, Mayor Byvelds, and then we can tweak it as needed.
Yeah, and that gives council a schedule. And we've been throwing stuff at the table, and we've had one date, and then it changes to another date. This kind of, I wouldn't say crystallizes it, but if you know that on the third Monday of the month you're going to be coming to a council meeting, then at least you can prepare for it and schedule accordingly.
I'd definitely much sooner have it scheduled ahead like that. You can sort of plan what life I have around a meeting.
Which is good.
It's a good thing you're just semi-retired then.
Eh?
It's a good thing you're just semi-retired then.
Yeah.
No, you think back, and no disrespect to anybody at this table, but we all made time and our work lives allow it to happen. But there were councils run by mayors that we well know that had a full-time operation and still made it to every meeting plus. So, it's, anyway, okay, we'll work on that. We've gone past this one, but we certainly can make the October one work. And if we have to have 2 in November, maybe that's an option too, because December is going to be, if we get late in December, it may not work out. Anyway, we'll figure something out. We'll make sure council and notice is properly put out for them. Thank you. Draft vaccination policy, CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is a draft policy that the counties in the lower tiers and SDNG have been working on. I believe the mayor and deputy mayor have seen a draft of this. Wanted to bring it to councils tonight just for discussion or comments. At the lower tier level, we are also looking at getting collectively a legal review on the information, as well as we're looking at adding additional information such as antigen testing weekly for people who are not vaccinated as of yet. So there's a few other things that we're working on, as well as some discussion with senior staff. So I just wanted to give it to council first for some comments that we can bring back, with the hope of bringing it back as a final policy at our next meeting.
Mayor Gardner.
I'm just pulling up the doctor. So is the legal review all 6 municipalities are going to pay for a legal
No, so what we're hoping is we're going to have one policy across SDNG where
Yeah.
a lawyer will review that policy and it will be spread amongst the
Okay.
lower tiers.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you saw Dr. Paul's,
Yeah.
I mean, he's put it out to the public.
Absolutely.
I have no issue with this. I am somebody who has fought for rights in different levels at different times. However, this is not it. When you're looking at government and the staff that are in government and the way it works, I have no problem with this at all. I think that it's important. It's the only way we're going to get out of this situation. I did have a question about how you're defining doctor. I felt like when I read it, I think that there's quite a few different types of doctors.
Yep.
And I was wondering if there was consideration to defining doctor.
Sure.
And also potentially not allowing a nurse practitioner to assess that, for it to come straight from a doctor.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's where we can get some of the legal language around that for sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I think you'd probably have one that's in good standing with blah 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 blah. Like it would be whatever their accreditation is. I think that is important language around there, because I know that there's been discussion at their level about how to, for lack of a better word, diagnose somebody who shouldn't be vaccinated. So I think you might want it through the College of Physicians or whatever. They've had some discussion around it. I don't have a problem with this at all, and I think that you've given more than enough timing, because everybody knew the vaccination certificate was coming. So there's been additional weeks added on. So no, I think this is the supportive conversation that's happening in our community, and I also would say that 70% of Ontario is fully vaccinated, so it's with it. So yeah, I have no issues with it at all.
Councilor Wells, we'll do you first.
I'm just going to echo across the room there, Deputy Mayor. It's the laws coming down. Ontario's making everyone do it, so it's we definitely got to support something like this, because it's law. So we really don't have much choice. So everyone's got to follow the protocol, and this is what we got to do. It seems like I'm sure there's going to be people who's going to buck this, but at the end of the day, it's going to be here. So I think I'm in support of this. Thank you.
Councilor Lewis.
I'm glad that we're going to get legal information. I don't feel like I have the right to tell somebody that they got to be vaccinated. Everybody has their own opinion. And I know there is people out there that cannot get the vaccination because of medical reasons. But there's also people out there that won't get the vaccination because they don't want to get the vaccination. I know I was very iffy on the vaccination when they were saying you have to get vaccinated. I didn't get vaccinated until I talked to my doctor. And everybody that's sitting in this room knows that my wife's health at that time was not very good. And that was one of the reasons that I got vaccinated, because I definitely didn't want to be a carrier of the COVID-19 and give it to her. But there is rumble out on the street. I don't want to get the vaccination because I have my rights. Well, I have my rights too. And I have got my needle. And I don't want you to get COVID and then bring it to me. So as long as we get legal information, I'm happy with this. Thank you.
Councilor Mellon.
Yeah, so, correct me, Shannon, so this policy is going to be basically across SDNG pretty well, somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, when we discussed at a CEO's level was that what we did want is to have different policies amongst SDNG. We wanted to have one unified approach so that whether you're here or you're in South Stormont or North Dundas, it's all the same message.
Yeah.
We're not differing messages.
And I can appreciate that, and I can see that, probably a smart thing to do. You know, you hear some of it out there that will there be any legal challenge if a person doesn't want to get vaccinated and they can be terminated? If they, you know, I mean, I'm just, you know, I don't want that to happen, and I think everybody should get vaccinated, and I think this is the way to go. I'm just looking down the road, like,
So- So from a human rights perspective, and Dr. Paul sent it out, from a human rights code perspective, anybody that does not want to get vaccinated, they have no case under the human rights code. This is a public health and safety. So this is the safety of our staff, which is at the forefront. Will you get people that will challenge it? Certainly.
Yeah.
Everybody will challenge it. If you look in Kingston, 127 or 137 were removed today. That did not get done. So at this point, we are standing firm that if you're not vaccinated, and the policy states it, is that we will work with you if it's a medical issue or we need to accommodate. But people who just don't want to get vaccinated for the sake of not wanting to is putting the rest of the staff at risk. So we will, as I said, indicate that we will deal with our legal opinion. If we have to put some additional language in there, we certainly will. But our main focus is the safety of our staff and our residents that are coming in here, our councils, our boards, our firefighters. That needs to be at the forefront.
And I appreciate that. I'm glad you've looked into that portion of it because, like you say, there's probably going to be some challenges, and I hope not. I hope everybody can see the light and say, hey, this is the best defense, you know, our best tool we have in our tool bag to try and get some normal life back and keep everybody safe. So, you know, it looks all right to me.
And the other thing I'll just add, this is a policy that's across Canada. We didn't create it ourselves, right? It's out there. Everybody, if you look at whether it's hospitals, schools, it's all the same messaging. Okay. It's just tailored to fit. Like I said, the counties don't include firefighters. We include firefighters because we have them. So it's
because none of those challenges, I guess, have been tried in court yet, and you know, haven't really come out either here. And I don't even know how far they'll go. You know, There's been threats of, oh, I'm going to challenge, you know, vaccination policy or whatever you might say. But I think, you know, with the health and safety issue and the overall good of the community and the province, and I don't think it'll probably go too far. Personally, I don't. Correct. I think it'll die on the plate. So, anyways, let's hope that way.
Well, I do agree with the vaccination policy. It is our best way to keep society healthy and safe. It's not foolproof, I will say that, you know, but 90% for the mRNA vaccines as a rate of efficacy is pretty good. I take 90% any day. If someone told me I was getting 90% of a crop every year, I'd be happier than heck. It is a health and safety issue. There's no doubt about it. You know, I wouldn't equate it to seat belts, but you know, it's pretty close. If people do have a valid reason that they cannot have a vaccine or this vaccine, then I'm good with that. If they can't do it, they can't do it. We will accommodate them best they can. They have to understand that they are at risk and have the potential to put others at risk. We all seen what has happened in the province of Alberta, where they just summer was wide open, and they thought that's the way to go, but it's backfired significantly. I was actually in Alberta middle of summer, and it was very haphazard, and but there was no big challenges at that time. Been in PEI too at the end of August, and they had an over 80% double vax rate in the province, and it showed, and they worked at it real hard. Now they're finding out there's some holes, and they're trying to plug them up, but we need to keep municipality of South Dundas moving ahead. This is as much as this vaccine came to the forefront in a significant hurry, it has done a significant good to those who have had the opportunity to have the vaccine. There are people in this world that are just dying, wishing they could have the vaccine, and of course there's others that are dying and wishing they did have it before they said no. So I think it's fair. I know they're going to say we're trampling on their rights, but the staff in our municipality that have done their due diligence and been vaccinated twice and have to look after older people at home are going to be appreciative of that too. That you got to, and those that have compromised health issues, it's just a smart thing to do. It's unfortunate we went through a federal election where one party thought that they can make an election issue out of it. And they certainly succeeded in finding enough people to go their side, but certainly not enough people to say that in the end they have any decision making for us going forward. So I would suggest that staff you bring this to the council for approval, and hopefully we won't have any issues with it going forward. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. So if somebody has absolutely no medical reason not to get the vaccine, just for point of clarity, we will not accommodate them, correct?
Correct. We only accommodate if there's a
Yes.
medical issue,
Yeah.
where that's where we have like the antigen
Yeah.
testing that they might have to provide
Yeah.
that once a week
Yeah.
to show that they're negative, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
And it's very rare for folks to have a medical
Absolutely.
reason to not get vaccinated. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
And I know, just the last comment, I know Councilor Mellon brought up the legalities of it, and I think, I do watch a lot of news type TV. They've had the experts on, the human resources experts, the lawyers, the whole 9 yards, and none of them, every one of them said that there's no legal case against the vaccination policy. And in fact, I'm thinking if there was such a case, there's enough lawyers in our world that if they thought it was something to take, they'd take her on. And I am yet to hear of one to do it. So, because, they would A, be famous if they got it through, but B, they'd look like fools if they didn't. So there's other bigger things to fight for than this, that's for sure. Any further comments from council? Okay, then bring that to our next meeting and we'll go from there. Any notices of motion tonight, Madam Clerk? No, sir. Okay, no closed session tonight. And ratification bylaw, please.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, second by Councillor Wells, that bylaw number 2021-99 being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
All heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. Before the clerk reads the adjournment motion, I'd like to thank council for their work tonight. Another 3-hour meeting. I think we accomplished a lot. I'd like to thank all the staff, those here and those virtually on the screen, for all their input. Certainly appreciated. I'd like to thank Phil from the leader for reporting on our proceedings, and I'd like to thank the audience for participating and watching. Hear a lot of good comments from those who are, and we certainly welcome any feedback that you are willing to give us. Go ahead.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Lewis, that council now adjourn to meet again at the call of the chair.
All heard the motion, those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. Thank you very much.